I put them to the test and they failed. Damn money. No, it's not even about money, it's something else. I wanted to tell you this story about an older woman named Margaret who came face to face with the worst of it. That stuff that makes you stop trusting the world. The real trash of extreme selfishness. A complete lack of basic human decency, that's what I call it. I mean, imagine this world without people. No one would want to be in it, even if they had everything material they ever dreamed of. But instead of going on some long rant, let me just tell you her story. You've probably heard something like this before. Maybe you've even lived it through someone close. It's about how money somehow ends up being worth more than affection, even more than self-respect. Because doing these kinds of things, these disgusting low moves, shows that something inside you is just off. So she thought, all right, let me post something on Facebook. Say I'm falling apart, dealing with some serious illness, see what happens. And yeah, sure, it had an effect. A little more attention, a few comments, a couple of sad reactions. But it was way less than she expected, way less than she hoped. That wasn't her last attempt, obviously. The next month she posted again saying her pension wasn't enough, that she was struggling financially. And I don't think it'll surprise you to hear what happened. Yeah, you already know. So then she thought, all right, let's go bigger, something that leaves no room for doubt. What if I fake my damn death? Just to see what the hell happens. Out of pure curiosity, so she did it. She gathered the money. How? Her need and her hunger for truth were so deep she sold her house, chose to be without it. That's how badly she needed to know. With that money, she hired a lawyer, an actor, and a videographer. Yeah, it sounds insane. It sounds extreme, but that's what Margaret wanted back then. And nothing was going to stop her. Like everything in life, except the day taxes forgive you, her fake death also came to light. The post on social media read on Seno Tonomo. Margaret has passed on to a better place. They actually did a great job setting the scene. I mean, the video was well produced. There was an actress playing her daughter, crying on camera, begging for people to remember her mom with kindness. You know the kind, tears, trembling voice, emotional music in the background. All those typical comments flooded in. I just talked to her last month. She was such a kind soul. Rest in peace, beautiful lady. There were people who shared memories, others who just reacted to the tragedy, and a few who suddenly remembered they had once cared about her. That's how it works, right? People find their compassion too late, when it's safe, when there's no expectation anymore, when they don't have to actually show up. Margaret had finally gotten the attention she had been starving for, the validation she craved. But the worst part, she wasn't even surprised. That's what made it sadder. Deep down, she already knew this is how people worked. Some of them sent money. Others offered help to the grieving daughter. Some even suggested organizing a memorial service. For the first time in years, her name was on people's lips again. Her photo was shared, reposted, mourned. And what was she doing? She was watching it all from a small motel room with the curtains drawn, phone in hand, scrolling through comments, eyes half dead from a mix of anger, satisfaction, and pain. She wasn't happy, she wasn't proud, it wasn't even revenge, it was just confirmation, proof that her worth only meant something when she was gone, and that hit harder than she expected. She didn't cry though. That part of her had already dried up long ago. She just let the silence take over the room, and in it she understood something brutal. It's not that people can't love. It's that they've trained themselves to love when it's convenient. Margaret had gone to the extreme to prove a point, and in doing so, she found the kind of truth no one wants to face. Because the truth wasn't in how they treated her when she was alive. It was in how fast they remembered her once they thought she was gone. The funeral was set for the following Saturday. Of course, her daughter was the one who arranged everything, coordinating with the funeral home, sending out invitations, making sure the whole act was as real as possible. It all seemed like an official goodbye, the kind that people remember. It was all so perfect, everyone was starting to believe it. But the truth? Well, Margaret wasn't dead. No, she was far from it. She wasn't attending the funeral. She wasn't even close. Instead, she was sitting alone in that same grimy motel, staring at the screen of her phone. Every notification made her laugh a little bitterly. She was like a ghost, except she was very much alive, sitting in front of the truth. You see, she wasn't interested in money anymore. Not the way she had been before. She didn't need sympathy. She didn't need the pity, the fake condolences, or the offers to always be there for her. What she craved, what she truly wanted, was for people to understand that their empty gestures meant nothing. That as soon as she wasn't in the picture anymore, they would find someone else to do the same for. Margaret had already seen the pattern. She'd seen it in her own family with her own friends. They only cared about her when it suited them. They loved the idea of her as long as she was useful, as long as she could offer something. Once she was out of the equation, she was a distant memory, and in that brief window when everyone thought she was gone, they realized how much they really cared. But now she was going to give them one last shock, one final act to make her point clear. She posted the video. She had already set everything up weeks ago while the fake funeral preparations were still ongoing. The camera rolled and Margaret's voice came through loud and clear. "So you all thought I was dead, huh? You thought you were finally going to get that money, those things I never had the chance to give you? Well, here's the truth. The truth you don't want to face. It's not about me. It was never about me. You only cared when I was gone. You acted like you missed me, but let's be real. Who would miss someone who was alive and could never offer them what they wanted?" Her voice didn't shake. She wasn't angry. She was calm, collected, and clear. This was her final message. The money that was meant for you is already gone. I donated it to women who never had the luxury of having someone in their life who gave a damn when they needed it. I gave it to single mothers who struggle every day, to those who are overlooked, and to those who have to fight alone. That's where my inheritance went. Not to you, not to anyone who pretended to care. The video ended. She posted it, and immediately it went viral. Within hours, the comments started pouring in. Some were defensive, accusing her of being bitter or ungrateful. Others were shocked, realizing how much of her life had been spent trying to get their attention. People started reflecting, but it wasn't just about them. It was about her, about everything she had lived through, about all the moments when she had felt invisible. She wasn't asking for their pity. She wasn't asking for their love. She was telling them the truth in the only way they would hear it. Her family didn't get the money. They didn't get the inheritance. They got nothing. The real winners were the women who had always been forgotten. The ones who would put it to good use, who wouldn't take it for granted, who wouldn't pretend. And Margaret? Well, she wasn't surprised. She wasn't upset. She was finally at peace because she had proven her point. She had exposed the ugly truth that people only care when it's too late. The reactions kept coming. The video Margaret posted spread like wildfire. Every major social media platform buzzed with her name. News outlets picked up the story, analyzing it, debating it. But Margaret wasn't paying attention to any of it. She wasn't checking her phone, scrolling through the comments, or watching the viral shares. She didn't care anymore. She had done what she needed to do. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had control over her life. She wasn't just another player in someone else's game. She was the one holding the cards, and she had shown everyone who was really in charge. The family that had never truly cared about her. They were scrambling, trying to explain themselves, trying to salvage their reputations, but it was all too late. Nothing they said could undo the truth Margaret had exposed. What hurt most wasn't the money, the inheritance, or the anger from her relatives. What really stung was the realization that the people who should have been there for her in her hardest moments, those who claimed to love her, only loved the idea of her. They only cared when they had something to gain. She sat back in her chair, taking a deep breath, and for the first time in years, a genuine smile crept onto her face. She wasn't a victim anymore. She had stopped being the one who was constantly overlooked, the one who was only important when it suited others. Margaret had become the author of her own story. She had freed herself from the emotional chains that had bound her for so long. As the weeks went by, the news died down. The video became a distant memory for most, but not for her. Margaret had no desire to see anyone again. No desire to return to the life she had once known. She didn't need any more validation, and she didn't need any more apologies. What mattered was the legacy she had created. That money she had given away was changing lives. The women who received it were using it to feed their children, pay for education, start businesses, and improve their lives. That was the real reward, the real victory. Margaret had realized that sometimes you don't get the closure you want from people. Sometimes you have to create your own. She had faked her death, but in doing so, she had found the truth. The truth that had been staring her in the face all along. The world would continue to spin, the drama would fade, and life would go on. But Margaret knew one thing for sure. She would never again be the woman who lived her life for the approval of others. And for the first time in a long time, Margaret was free. If you enjoyed it, I invite you to subscribe. We will bring better stories every time. Thank you.